Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Skill Up series. My name is Esther Arkanj, and I'm an academic trainer with the Graduate Studies Support Center, formerly known as the Center for Teaching and Learning. And I am so thrilled to present this session from NU librarians June Kim and Alex Plant. Today's session is titled Set Yourself Up for Success, How to Access Full Text Articles. Just a reminder, I am recording the webinar, and the video will be posted to the GSCC LibGuides page and the YouTube page within 24 hours. And the video will be sent to our registrants. You will receive the video. If you have questions, we ask that you hold off on questions until the end, where we will open up the Q&A section, and you can put your questions in the chat feature. Our GSSC team is in the chat and will be assisting throughout today. With that, I will turn it over to Alex Plant.
Thank you so much, Esther. It's such a pleasure to be here. Just a thumbs up, you guys can see my screen, right? No matter how many times we do this, right, we still need to just confirm that it's actually there. My name is Alex. I am a librarian with, well, originally NCU, but now with NU. So it's a real pleasure to be here. And just as Esther mentioned, the title of the webinar, the skills refresher that we're going to be going over with you is Set Yourself Up for Success, How to Find Full Text Articles. So this, I would have to say, in June, you can always jump in and tell me that I'm exaggerating, but I think that one of the main questions that we get from our scholars, be it on chat, be it on our one-on-one consultations, emails that get sent to the library is, I think I have an article. I would like to access the article, but either I can't find it, or when I try to access it, I'm blocked in some way, right? So I can't find it. I saw the title. I'm not able to open it. There's no PDF. They're asking me to pay money, right? There's all these different things that can kind of pop up. And so we thought it would be a really good idea to kind of go over some of the reasons why you might have trouble finding full text articles, and then what are some tips and tricks to making sure that when you're out there searching in, either our databases, right, or a little sampling of what you might be doing on something like a Google Scholar, right, to make sure that you know that you're setting yourself up for the likelihood that you'll be able to access the articles that you are looking for. And I will just mention, as you get to look at our lovely faces here, I will just mention one thing. June and I both, like I said, come from the NCU side of the house. And so we will be using primarily NCU resources to kind of show and illustrate points. But I just want to say that, whether you're using NCU credentials or NU credentials, the concepts and ideas that June and I bring up are universal, right? So they will work on any database that you are working on, right? So if you have specific questions about like your side of the house, right? So any NU folks out there that are like, okay, but what does it look like on the NU side? June and I can absolutely help you, but just so you know, in theory, what we're showing you is universal and is applicable to, I'll say, most library catalogs. So again, this is June and I. These are our NU emails. Actually, June's NU email is wrong here. June's NU email is right on the last page, so don't copy down June's, but mine is correct. Sorry, June, I forgot to update it here. But we are your presenters, and we're going to kick things off with me. So you'll see that there's a lot of text on here. Don't worry if you want to take a screenshot, or if you want to just listen to me and maybe write down a note or two, that's totally fine. This is really more for those of you out there that are learners who like to see things written out, right? Because you're not processing all auditory information given to you, but we're going to go over this. So the question that comes up to us is, I found an article, but I can't access it. Why? This is a very, very legitimate question, right? You expect that when you put in your search terms into the library database, that something will, boom, pop up, and you will be able to start reading, start watching, start listening to the resource that you found. But there are a couple of reasons, right, why it might be a little bit difficult, right, or it might not work exactly the way that you think it's going to work. Sorry, everybody. I just got to move my little videos around so that I can actually read things. So one of the reasons, right, why this might be happening is there might be a little bit of a misconnect between the database that you are using and sort of what we call a discovery layer, right? So the main database that you all are using on the NCU library page, there might be a little bit of a misconnect between that main database that you're using and then the very specific database where we're getting that article from, right? We call this on our side, there's a problem with the link resolving, right? And therefore, what you might then need to do is you might need to actually go into that other database and search for it there, right? I'm going to show you that in just a moment when I switch over to my my library screen. So in this case, the solution is you can find the name of the database, you can check in our A to Z database and search directly, right? This doesn't happen that often, but it does happen enough that I want students to know that sometimes there are certain groups of databases, mainly the SAGE databases, and I've also seen it happen once or twice with our Science Direct and a couple of times with ebooks. This will happen. So there's some other ways, right, that you can try and see if we have that article available. Similarly, especially when it comes to trying to find a particular ebook, we have found that actually by using a slightly different search called Find a Resource, it's easier to sometimes find those ebooks. You can also use Find a Resource if you're looking for a journal. Let's say you've got a bunch of articles that pop up, they're all coming from the same journal, and you're like, wait a second, do we actually, I can't seem to open up any of these articles. Maybe the issue is we don't have access to the journal. Or maybe you're like, actually, I see a lot of interesting articles. I want to just go right to the journal and search directly within there. We have that option as well. So let's actually, I'm going to go ahead and just stop my share really quickly so I can reshare a different page with you all. There we go. And let's go in and kind of deep dive a little bit into what exactly it is that I am talking about. Let's get these tools out of the way. All right, so a couple of things, right, that I was just talking about. So one, when we're talking about the main search, we're kind of talking about this, we call it the Roadrunner search, right? So if you ever are talking to a librarian and we say, oh, did you try Roadrunner search? This is the area that we are talking about. And so a couple of things. So one, let's go and take a look at Find a Resource. So the default is going to be on your main search, and this is the one that everybody is probably used to. You type in your keywords, you hit submit, right, and you'll get your articles. But Find a Resource, okay, is really helpful specifically if you're trying to narrow down by the title of a journal or a book title, right? This is not articles that we're looking for. These are books and journals exclusively, right? So for example, I was working with a student this morning and we were looking for, I believe it was, yes, the Journal of Adolescent and Adult Literacy. We had a question about whether or not she was going to be able to access an article that had been published at the end of last year. And I said, well, why don't we start by trying to see, do we actually have access to this journal? And then maybe from there, we can try and figure out if you'll be able to find the article that was written in 2022. And what we were able to find when we did this search is, yes, indeed, you know, the Journal of Adolescent and Adult Illiteracy pops up as available somewhere within our resources. You can see that ProQuest has some, Academic One File. You can see sort of all the different databases down here, as well as 2 Wiley databases. But what's really important, and this is what I, would love you guys to kind of hone in on, is you can actually see what articles, or I should say what the publishing range is for these articles. So as you can see for these first 2, they stop in 2011, right? So anything published after 2011 is not going to show up in these databases. And then down here, 2004 to 2020, right? If it's published in 2022, we're not actually going to have access to it. So it can be really frustrating as a student, right? As a scholar to realize, oh, the article is available, but I actually don't have access to it, right? And so in that case, you know, we've sort of narrowed it down that it might be something, right, where you won't have access through the library. There might be some other way, right, that you'll have to go about finding it. Okay. Now, that was sort of this area down here, find a resource. Up here, right, when we're talking about, you know, what happens if you need to search into a different database directly, right? If you come back here to our Roadrunner search, I actually did a little test today. I was looking up articles on digital literacy, right? That's something that librarians are always keen to figure out. And when you come here, you'll get your list of search results, right? And when you see things, and June's going to go into this much more deeply, so I'm not going to get into it very much, but when you see things like PDF text or access this book through, you know, PDF text, right? That's a pretty good indication that you'll have access to the resource, right? However, let's say we clicked into here and we didn't have anything available over here. You know, we didn't have a PDF, right? If you went down here and let's say you wanted to double check to make sure, the database that this information is getting pulled from actually shows up down here, right? So another way that you could go about searching for this book, if it didn't link you directly to it, is you could actually just say, where's eBook Central? You can come back up into the library homepage, and under research resources, A to Z databases, get very familiar with this because it can be really helpful, especially for those of you that are looking for specific databases. Now we know it's called eBook. What did I say? Yes, it is eBook Central. So we'll just come over here to E, right, for eBook. All right. And you can see that eBook Central is actually the very first one. And so another option, if you're like, no, I know it says that there is this book available, you can actually search for it directly in eBook Central, right? And that just so happens to be a ProQuest database, right? So sometimes it takes a little bit of additional, let's say, detective work in order to get that all figured out, but you can actually do it. And if you're struggling, you can always come and talk to us and we can also help walk you through it. So you can, if you're like, I know that you guys might have this, I just totally forget how to do it. Absolutely no worries. We can assist you. One more thing that I would like to sort of show you guys here is in this long list of results that you have, I'm going to go and find one. I know that there's a couple here that we don't actually have access to, and I just wanted to show you. This one we might actually have access to. So down here where it says link to full text, oftentimes you will see this pop up for both when we have access and when we don't have access, and that can be extremely frustrating. So if you click on it, I believe in this case do we have access here? Yes, we do actually have access to this one. So you can see when we click on it, right, it brings us right to it. That's when the link resolver, right, is working and actually takes you to the actual database that you need. Now, if we go back to that results list, was it this one? If I click on link to full text, that one we have. I want to show you what it looks like because it can be incredibly frustrating when you get down to this option. Let's try this, bridging the digital divide. You see it has the exact same link off here, 360 link to full text, but when I click on this, here's what happens, right? We get this page instead, which is essentially telling you we might not have it. And it actually gives you a couple of the routes that we would suggest to you, right? So one is to go and see if you can find, right, whether or not we subscribe to this particular publication. That was what I was kind of explaining earlier. And then it gives you a couple of other options as well, right? But the frustrating fact is that this little link over here still looks the same. Because essentially what we're doing is we're saying, you know, we know that it's out there, okay? We know that it exists. We know that it's a real thing, but do we have actually access to it? And that brings me to my next point. The library has a lot of available resources, okay? But it's not like we have access to every single resource that is available within a database. The best way to describe it is think of your cable TV package or like a streaming service like a Netflix or a Hulu. There might be things available, right, that you could purchase, right? If we're talking about, old-fashioned cable TV, you used to be able to buy, right, different packages, right? And you might get like one channel in this package, but you don't get it in the other package. It's very similar to when we just subscribe to a database, right? So in that database, we might have hundreds and hundreds of journals, but maybe there's 10 journals on, say, education, for example, or psychiatry, right, that we don't have. And of course, right, as a student, right, researching topics within any one of those disciplines, you might come across those journals. But rather than just hide those from you and say, actually, just because we don't have access to them, we're going to hide them from you. Instead of doing that, what our databases do is they allow you to see that it is out there, right? You could have access to it, but our library just doesn't have that subscription to that journal. We never want to hide information on scholars, right? We want you to have the information, but we might not have access to that information. We can get you access, right? And I think June will kind of allude to this a little bit in her presentation, so I don't want to jump on anything she's going to say, but there are ways in which we can kind of help you maybe track down that information. Or I should say, there are ways in which we can teach you to help you track down that information, but also think about it this way, right? You have a glimpse of what you could have. Okay, we don't want to hide any information. We want your search to be as thorough as possible, but just understand that there are going to be instances where there are going to be journals or videos, right, that we can show you, but we can't actually give you access to just because we don't own it in that particular moment. The last thing that I will want to say just about sort of access to library resources is that there is also a difference between what students, active students, and alumni have access to, right? And we have plenty of resources out there to kind of help you guys navigate this. But what I will say is that at the very high level understanding is that students have the full access of what the library subscribes to, right? And again, be that a tool, be that a database, be that, videos, right? Students have access to all of that. Alumni, and this is not our choice as a library, but really the guidance, right, of different databases and other scholarly publishing outlets is that alumni just don't have the same level of access, right? They have a much smaller amount of access, and usually we've sort of had to fight and get a little rough and tumble with our databases in order to even get alumni access. And so oftentimes alumni will be frustrated because they don't have the same reach, right, that they used to as students. And as we will always say, is we definitely feel very bad about that when a student doesn't have access to something as an alumni. But again, that's not always our choice. And wherever we can, we try to make sure that alumni are able to get access to resources through our databases. But it's a much smaller amount that you will have access to as an alumni, whereas students kind of have access to everything. Active students have access to everything. The last little bit, if this will advance for me. There we go. The last little bit that I wanted to talk about before turning things over to June is a lot of times, right, we will have students come to us and say, I know this article has been published. I've seen it talked about. I've seen it, on a table of contents for a journal. I know that we have access to the journal. I know that, this was only published a month ago. Why isn't this available, right? Or sometimes you'll hear somebody say, I know this was available a couple of weeks ago, but now it's not available. Why is that? And in a lot of cases, right, it could be that we no longer subscribe to a particular journal, right? Sort of like the Netflix issue, if you will. We've lost access to a particular journal. but oftentimes it gets into kind of this murky world of scholarly publishing. And I think this is important for you all to know. And we are not the experts necessarily on scholarly publishing over here in the library. We definitely have our colleagues in other places throughout national who are more well versed in this. But what we can tell you is it can cause some consternation for access for our students. So one thing is dissertations, right? So a lot of you are oftentimes looking for dissertations, right? Dissertations, right, in some cases are going to be turned into articles. They might be turned into books, other types of resources, right? And when that happens, right, dissertations will go under what we call an embargo, right? And it's not just dissertations. Dissertations is just the example that I'm using here, but they'll go under an embargo, which basically means that all these scholarly journals, right, all these academic journals where a dissertation might be getting submitted to, right, or another scholarly publishing outfit they might get submitted to, they basically say, no one can have access to this anymore because we own it now. It is going to be a part of our scholarly publication, and therefore people are going to have to pay in order to get it. So an embargo will basically be put onto these scholarly publications. It also happens immediately after something has been published. So what is it? It is February, right? Or I should really say it's March. Let's say something is published March 1st, 2023. There's a good amount of time, and it differs between publications, where there'll be an embargo, right, on sort of the digital access to it through a database, right? So let's say I'm making up journals here, guys. The American Journal of Marriage Therapy, right? Let's say you get published in that on March 1st, 2023. That journal could decide that the scholarly databases that we all subscribe to as academic libraries, that we don't have access to that for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And so therefore you as the scholar, you're not going to have access to it until it becomes available through the databases. It means that really the only way you're going to get access to it is if you buy it. And we never want our students to have to buy things on their own. But that is why sometimes you'll see something was published and then it's for some reason not available, even though it's actually, published, right, in that particular journal. I'll also mention here really quickly, publishing timelines in the scholarly world can be pretty long and arduous, right? So you might also hear about something getting published or being in the process of being published, and then it sort of disappears. And that is usually because it's just taking it takes a long time to get things published, from submission to review to feedback to actually being published and then being available in a database, right? That can take up to 12 months. In order for that to actually become available to you. So there's many reasons, right, why it might be a little bit difficult to find your articles, but we as librarians want to make sure that you can get your articles in as many ways as possible. And so I'm going to turn things over now to my colleague, June, to answer the last question that we have for you, which is, how do I access a resource that the library has access to? So we've nailed it down that we actually have access, right? But how do we get to that article? June, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you, Alex. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So thank you for that. That was a lot of great information. And I wanted to just go over so I wanted to go over, show you live some of the examples you might come across when you conduct a search, and kind of like make a distinction between among the different scenarios you might get, so that you'll know what to do next time you see those situations. So let's say, okay, you're on the library homepage, you're conducting a search, and you should be conducting the search from the advanced search page. And just the example that I'm using today is animal assisted therapy. And just FYI, you always want to, you always want to include phrases in quotation marks so that it will find the exact phrase and not just individual words. So for example, we're searching this topic and we're going to search it as a subject, let's say. Okay, so just before I go into the different examples you might get when you conduct a search, there is a filter on the left. After you do an initial search in Roadrunner, you'll see the limit to full text option. And if you click that full text option, you will only see, you'll only be presented with articles that you have immediate full text access to. So it's basically a guarantee that if you click this box, it's a guarantee that whatever results it presents you with will include the full text. So just that's handy to know if you're pressed for time and you can't use Interlibrary Loan, which I'll go over that in a little bit. So there's again, the full text filter. But let's say you're conducting a search. I'm not clicking that filter because I kind of wanted to show you all the varieties. First off, like you conduct a search. Whenever you see the PDF icon, that's going to mean that that's a guarantee that the full text is available. So you're good to go. Just click the PDF option or icon, and then you'll be taken to the article in one click. And then at that point, you can, it's one click access, and then you can download the article to your desktop. So that's the ideal result you'll want to get. Also, Alex went over this. She did a great job of explaining it. There is another very common result you'll see or option you'll see is the 360 link. And like she said, it can either lead you, it will lead you to the full text or it might not. Most of the time it does. So like for instance, like number 5 has that 360 link to full text. And in this instance, it is indeed linking you to the full text on an individual database website. It linked you out to Science Direct. There's the article. It's a little busy, and so part of the confusion comes from like getting linked out to different databases, and they each look different. So you're not sure how to access the full text because each database looks a little different from the next. So in this case, you would just search for in all cases, just search for the PDF button. And here on this page, it's on the upper left-hand side. So you can just, once you click that PDF button, you'll get the full text. There's the full text, and then you can download it to your desktop. So I'm not going to download it, but that's how you would access it. So this is an instance when it actually does give you the full text, but like Alex says, sometimes it doesn't. Number 4, for instance, it has that same icon, but when you click on it, you get this page. This page always means, not always, but most of the time means, well, no, it always means the library. Most of the time means that the library does not have full text access. And it's suggesting you to check Google Scholar or check if we have the journal or borrow it from Interlibrary Loan. So you might want to, what you could do is copy and paste, just to cover your bases, you could copy and paste the article title and plug it into Google Scholar and then see if oh, sorry, that is the wrong link here. Just a second. This one. Oops, no, it was number 4. Ah. Okay, so it's saying the library doesn't have it. Try Google Scholar. We'll plug it into Google Scholar, and also Google Scholar does not have it either. If it did, there would be a PDF icon. That message did not include this tip, but you can also try regular Google. Sometimes it might appear. And then usually, again, you'll know that it's available if you see a PDF icon somewhere, but I don't see any. So yeah, for instance, the first result is telling you the full text is available here, but it won't be. So again, the clue that it's available as full text is if you see a PDF icon. So we just tried Google Scholar, we tried regular Google, and then Alex mentioned this as well. FAR, find a resource, is another kind of way to cover your bases, where you plug in the journal title in FAR to make sure that we really don't have it. And then FAR is here on this search engine page, find a resource. I called it FAR, it's find a resource. You would plug in the journal title, not the article. You would choose title contains all words and search, and it's saying no, we don't have this. But Alex showed you that when we do have it, the journal would appear here with dates, and then you can go into the journal and search for the article. And the reason why we have to do this is sometimes we have 2 systems going on, and sometimes there's a glitch. So a record, we might have something, but the library doesn't realize we have it. It's rare though. So I'm sorry, I kind of like we went way into the what happens when you get that not available message. That was all part of the 360 option. So moving on, and that's the most complicated it'll get. There's also the other option you might see is an icon for HTML full text. That's just as good as the PDF full text. It's a 1 click away from the article. So with 1 click, you get access to the full article. It's just not a PDF, it's an HTML form. So it's like embedded onto that page. But you can save the article or email it to yourself. And then another example I wanted to point out, another kind of link you might see that doesn't look familiar. You might not know what it is on page 3, number 124. Okay, so like this one, number 124, this article has this link, view full text from Wiley. So in this instance, it's just linking you out to a specific database, and it means that it's available. You just have to search for the PDF icon on whatever database it's linking you to. So in this instance, it's linking you to Wiley Online Library, and the PDF icon is here. You might have to look around for the PDF icon. It's in different places on different websites. So that's the database link out example. And then the last example I wanted to show you was, so sometimes you will, it actually only applies to dissertations. So let's say you see a dissertation that you want to further explore, like this one, number 182, it's a dissertation. So when you click on that, you might get this message. It's saying that it's not, they couldn't find the item, but it is available. You just need to go straight to the actual database. So like Alex mentioned, if you go to A to Z databases and click the exact database you want to search in, I was ProQuest, was it global or? Oh, I already went in there earlier. Let me close that. So when I click that link, oh, let's see, I can't tell if it's global or NCU. We go into the record. I would just check global because that's more comprehensive. So in the A to Z list, you can just click P for ProQuest and then click on global. And then you would just have to copy and paste the title of the dissertation in here, and then you would be able to access it. So copying and pasting. Search. Oh, I hope there. So it's the first result listed, number 1, and then if you click on it, you'll get access to the entire dissertation here, 138 pages, and you would download it on your desktop. So I think that covers I think that covers pretty much all the different kind of results you'll get in a search. Let me just quickly summarize. You'll see the 360 link sometimes. You'll see the HTML full text link or the PDF icon. These are the best or the fastest way to access your article. Sometimes you'll see a link to a specific database. That's also good news. And I think that's it. And for ProQuest dissertations, just search the dissertation in the in ProQuest itself. That is all I have. I don't know if that was too fast or if anything was unclear, but I think we can open this up to any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, June.
Sure.
So we'll take this as an opportunity to open up the Q&A. So if you do have any questions, please refer to the chat feature located at the bottom of your Zoom. If you want to clarify anything or you have questions, we have 2 amazing NU librarians at your disposal to answer questions. So go right ahead, folks.
I'm going to call Roscoe out because I want to make sure that we know, Roscoe, the question you're asking. I'll be honest with you, I didn't completely understand it, but I want to make sure we point you in the right direction if it's not the library.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was one particular consent that I needed to clarify, because it doesn't seem like I can get through this process. I'm not getting all of the help through this course.
Okay.
It seems that there are things that are different for me. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why that would be the case. So, excuse me, in this, I wasn't expecting to be called out.
Sorry.
It's okay. I appreciate it. It occurs to me that this is all one-on-one, okay? For the most part, right? I haven't met with my one-on-one teacher yet, but there have been lots of roadblocks in this process and interference. I don't believe those who are in authority would actually want. And I'm trying to stay really focused. And so this takes the cake. There's NU and then there's the NCU side. I'm on the NCU side.
Right.
And I am having lots of interference. And so I don't even know if this is the appropriate space in which to ask some of the questions, because maybe that's why I'm experiencing these difficulties. And it is relative to the resources available. And then within the larger database, I'm aware that there's more available, but there's so much available that it can become confusing. You can become disconnected from the process. And I don't think that is intent. And so try to stay connected, but also access the resources. Is this making any sense? Like I feel like I'm kind of just talking in circles or something.
Oh no, I think it makes sense. I think your microphone is up though, because I can't really hear you. I think if you just flip your microphone down on your headphones, I can hear you a little bit better. I think you're talking. I think you're. Yeah, and that's okay. I know you're talking specifically about EBSCO. So I think I don't really understand the question you're asking. That's why I was curious if you could just elaborate a little bit on the EBSCO question that you're referring to, and then maybe we can help you. I don't know if we can help you, but if it's about EBSCO, that at least is in sort of our wheelhouse as the library.
Okay, sure. So EBSCO is the only resource that required me to have consent specific to it. And I want to know if that's a standard practice or if that's something that absurds that you all are not aware of.
Do you mean when you register for to use EBSCO's services?
Yeah, it's standard.
I think that's fairly standard for all databases. Thank you, Kim. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you.
What I mean is there was an additional consent.
Okay.
I didn't have to, it occurs to me that there were no other additional consents as I was going through the resource center.
You are talking about the library, right? When you say the resource center?
Yes.
Okay.
About the library.
Okay. I mean, I think it is, here's what I will say that I know. Every time you engage with a database as a new user, right, there will be some kind of consent that you will have to agree to. If EBSCO is making you agree to additional consents, I don't know off the top of my head why that would be. And I'll be honest with you, I probably consented to whatever it was many months ago. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but what I will say is those are not the school's consents, right? Anything that we as a school would make you ask you to consent to, that would be, under our branding. If it was EBSCO, right, that was making you consent to something, I would suggest that you reach out to them directly. And if you are reaching a roadblock, we can certainly try to reach out to EBSCO as as the library and basically ask your questions on your behalf. I'm assuming you have questions about the consent. Okay. Do you want to maybe write to me in June separately, and we can maybe talk about that consent a little bit more, so that we would know what it is. Okay, great. So I'm just going to put our emails in the chat for you to copy down. And I'm going to put our NCU emails just because it's easier for my old brain to to handle.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
Did he leave? I had a question, but oh, Roscoe,
he's here.
Yeah.
He's still here.
Yeah, just you mentioned like different processes and some difficulty. Did you mean like difficulty with using the library? Like, do you mean like kind of like links that aren't working, or what difficulties are you having? He may have stepped away.
No,
he's
still here.
Oh, yeah, I think you're cutting out a little bit. Maybe you're freezing.
Are you speaking with? I'm sorry. I was just disconnected and reconnected. Were you speaking with me, June?
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that was the end of your question. If there were other issues you were having with access.
Absolutely. I just got and it's out of my control. And there are things that are happening that are completely out of my control that I should have control over, just to a large extent. Mm-hmm. And so I do look forward to, as Heather, you have been out there as well. Mm-hmm. And I'll be sure to contact you directly.
Please do. Yeah, we'd like to get to the bottom of this for you.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. I was also just going to add to Belinda, thanks for answering her, June. I was also going to say we do also have, a couple of video specific databases. So when you go into A to Z, there's actually a way that you can search by the type, and it'll say like videos next to it. I think it's videos that we have it listed as. So you can also sort of hone in on which databases actually have videos available to you. Oh, Belinda, you're muted. Oh, you're good. Awesome. Excellent. Anybody else have any questions that we can answer you? Hi, Denise. Yeah, absolutely. You're muted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Every time I tried to press the unmute button, it just snuck away from me. It was running away from me.
Absolutely, no worries.
I have sort of a weird question. I'm doing a study on communication apprehension in youth, and I found a paper that's absolutely perfect. Mm-hmm. That's right on point, and but it says it's a preprint, and it's got a DOI. This version posted December 5th, 2022. The copyright holder for this preprint, which was not certified by peer review, is the author/funder who has granted MR and then Roman numerals a license to display the preprint in perpetuity. Now, does this mean that this paper is not going in for peer review at all? Is it going to be peer reviewed? Can I wait for it to come out? Or should I just abandon this jewel and try to go somewhere else?
I think without seeing it,
I can email you the link to
If
it.
if you want to email me the link to it, and June too, you've got both of our emails there. You can email
Okay.
to both of us, and you can email it to us. So really quickly, right? Preprints are exactly what you would imagine they are, right?
Yeah, I know. They're just
in most
maybe circulated
cases,
before a conference or something.
exactly. So they're circulated ahead of a conference. Sometimes they're circulated ahead of like some other type of like
they might
event,
never make
right?
it out of someone's drawer is really what we're looking
Correct.
at, right? Okay.
Correct. And if it were a I would have to say, like, if it were a journal, right? In many cases, I would be shocked that they would let something out of their clutches. Once they've sort of invested the time and effort for it. What it could be, Denise, is that it could be something that is being shopped around, right, to a journal for publication. And so it could be peer reviewed in the future, but my concern is the peer review comment that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And that is concerning to me. I would be curious to know where you found it. Where did you find it?
Well, I have access to another university.
Sure.
I mostly go through like language and linguistics database that NU doesn't have. And there's a couple of other databases that you guys don't have that are more on my topic.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't used your library as much, although I do find it pretty good when I get there. But this one, it could be more of, it's an epidemiological paper, biostatistics. It could be that it's maybe not even meant for that, but meant for something else. So I found it in a medical database.
In a medical database.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a publisher attached. It
No,
doesn't have
it's
any
not
kind
published.
of publisher.
It's just preprint, and we don't know if it's going to get published. I guess that's what that means, right? Okay.
Yeah, we don't
That's
know.
what I thought.
But they are being what I would say is that they are being very what's the word I'm looking for? Transparent, right? And letting you know that it hasn't gone through peer review.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
which
so
is really important. Yeah.
My bigger concern for you as the scholar who has work to do is that if you tried to turn that in, right, in a research paper, it would. It's
for my dissertation.
I was going to say
your
chair is going to be all over that one.
My chair would say no. But I just thought, if there's something you can do, can you write to these people and say, if this get peer reviewed?
Yes, you can.
I could do that, right?
I just
thought of that now. I didn't
tell
think of it
students
before.
to do that. Yeah, I tell students to do that all the time.
Oh, okay.
Especially when it comes to like test results, right? So, right, when a lot of you, when you're going out and trying to find like the measurement, right, that you're going to use for your work, a lot of times you'll find the test, right, but not necessarily what the results were.
Right.
And so, especially in some of these like more niche categories, and a lot of times I will tell students, like, the authors are listed right there with their emails. Like, email them, explain who you are, explain that you're working on your dissertation, and just work directly with the scholar, because I have found a lot of times a scholar, it might take them a minute to like get into their inbox and respond, but they're more likely to talk to you, right, than trying to convince a scholarly publication to give you something for free. The only thing, right, is that they might have some issues around like privacy and sensitivity, right? And so you never know if their results have been anonymized enough in order for them to share. So
but if they would just tell me whether or not it's going to be published and whether to wait for it, that'd be all I'd really need to know. So that'd be great.
In your case, yes. I think the question really just is, hey, I found a preprint of this. Did you ever publish this? Are you planning to publish this? I'd really like to use it, but as a preprint, it's not going to pass, muster.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Any other questions? Great. Well, I'll just put my our emails in again, just in case anybody missed them in the chat. You are always welcome to reach out to us directly. You can also come and just visit the library. Just poor Kim, poor June's email keeps getting messed up by me. You know, come talk to us on chat, come set up. Oh yes, and that's the NU email. Mine is exactly the same, just take the C out of the email. Yeah, we'd love to have you come by the library, visit us via chat, or set up a consultation with us, especially for those of you that are getting into your dissertation work and could use a little bit of assistance, you know, with navigating these articles. It is a lot of information, and it can feel very lonely, I know, right? Trying to do this stuff on your own, but the library is your partner, and the library wants to help you. And like I said, even if we don't necessarily control what's going on, we want to make sure that we're pointing you in the right direction to talk to those people that can assist you.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Alex.
hosting us.
Yeah, thank you, June, for taking the time out and presenting all of this valuable information. Assuming there aren't any more questions, we're going to take this as an opportunity to close. We would like to thank all of our attendees for joining us today. I do hope you all take advantage of the resources that are available to you, and reach out to our librarians, as they are definitely people that can help you along the way with your success. With that, we thank you for taking the time out today, for being with us and our presenters. And I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody. Thank you.